Denver Broncos Mile High View, no commercials, no bullshit. Well, the Stupidity engines over at Sports Talk Radio are humming at full blast as the drumming for a quarterback just keeps going on and on and on. And there's one personality who is the quintessential representative for the idiot fan. So, and that would be DMac of Sports Talk Radio. The guy is a complete blithering moron. No, he is. Because I'm going to explain why this whole you should have drafted a quarterback in 2018, why with the Denver Broncos circumstance, why this was the stupidest idea of all time. And Sports Talk Radio, I'm going to tell you what they won't tell you. First of all, they go on and on acting as if Baker Mayfield was going to be available, and they have done that. And it's like, why are you wasting everybody's time? Because there was no way Cleveland was going to pass on Baker Mayfield. So you can scratch him out, okay? New York Jets moved up so that they could go and get Sam Darnold. Okay, so you could say, well, you could have fought with them and get into some kind of a draft war, and we'll address that later. So, but okay, so you could have got into it to get Sam Darnold. Okay, we'll put that off to the side, and I'll get back to that in a minute. And then there is Josh Allen. Okay, Josh Allen. This is a guy you could have got. Okay, and then there was Josh Rosen, and then I think the Jackson went later on. To Jacksonville, Lamar Jackson. So, you could have got Lamar Jackson too, and that's. Here's the thing. There was these quarterbacks that if you were going to get Sam Darnold, you were going to pay dearly for it. But before I get into to all this, why this is so stupid, let me show you. It says, how do we start? This is a question on the Mile High Report. And of course, if I can find it, what will it take for the Broncos to make a comeback to the Super Bowl? So this is what started all this quarterback nonsense, okay? So I'm going to just give you what I put down here. We're going to get back to why this is, why this whole idea about a quarterback in the 2018 draft was the stupidest idea possible for the Denver Broncos. I guess if you want to ruin a quarterback, then that's fine. So this is my take about how to properly rebuild the team. Number one, system. Okay, plenty of good quarterbacks and crappy systems, okay? And we can go and talk about Sam Darnold. See how good he did, right? See how that worked out? And Josh Rosen. They may even ship him off, okay? So that really worked out for them too. They grabbed a quarterback though. They have about everything that the Cardinals need. They need to fill every hole, but they got a quarterback, okay? You saw how that worked out. So right now the Broncos have a system. It's a play action system. It's based off of Shanahan system. So now they have one. In 2018, what did you have? In 2018, you had Vance Joseph, who I don't even think knew what system he was running. Okay? The offensive coordinator. Now, who would have they picked? Musgrave. They would have picked a pocket passing quarterback. Now, I'm going to get into Case Keenum really quick. Elway brought in Case Keenum. So what happened in 2018? It was supposed to be play action. Well, they wanted him to be a pocket quarterback, which made absolutely no sense. Again, John Elway, why did you create this mess? So if they were going to get Sam Darnold, okay, in 2018, he wouldn't even be a fit for this type of an offense. He is a pocket quarterback. Pure pocket quarterback. You want more of the rollout, the play action. That's what you signed up for. The Shanahan, the Jake Plummer bootleg, all that stuff. That's not Sam Darnold. Well, you could get him to do that. Why would you make him something he's not? Again, stupidity. Okay, stupidity. So the fact is that whoever they drafted in the 2018 draft, they wouldn't be. The whole coaching staff would change. So that's my number one is system. Plenty of good quarterbacks and crappy systems. They got a system. The second thing you need to work on is real scouting, both in the draft and free agency. I mean, have we not learned anything from the New England Patriots yet? They have a marquee scouting staff for their system. They get in, they plug players in. Most of them aren't, top picks. Their best players are second, third, fourth, fifth. Look at Edelman. I think he was a seventh rounder. Brady was a sixth rounder. But you got to have real scouting. I mean, you have to put a team together. You can't just throw a quarterback in shit. I don't know where people get this idea. That quarterbacks are fairies that wave magic wands or something. It's just unbelievable. The third thing you need, this is my take here at the Mile High Report, is real coaching. A staff that can take the right players that your scouts scouted for the system you have and make them into great players. Coaches that can mismatch their opponents and schemes. Coaches that can mismatch their opponent's schemes and correctly change schemes, their own schemes, on the fly. Okay? So not only do you need to have good players playing for you, you have to know your system and run it well to make it work. Okay? And you have to know how to make changes on the fly when the team counters what you're doing. This is before you even worry about a quarterback. Okay, well, if you had a quarterback, yeah, if you had a quarterback, you could do that. But you can have the best quarterback, but if you can't do those three things, system, real scouting, and coaching, I don't care what quarterback you have. They ain't going to help you because you're a fucked up team. Denver Broncos. Number 4, marquee lines, both offensive and defensive. What did we see in the Super Bowl? The difference. I shouldn't be so hard on Goff. Quite frankly, his line looked like shit. Brady's line, I mean, they had their hands full, but there was a definite difference between the two. If Goff had the time to throw, yeah, sure, he'd be fine. But when they're coming at you, at the snap of the ball like they were him, it's not hard to not see receivers because you're worried about your head getting knocked off. So you got to build from the lines out. 5. Now we get to quarterback. Quarterback with a high, quarterback, first of all, it fits your system, whatever that system is. Is it a pocket passing system? Is it a play action system? A quarterback with a high completion rate who can get rid of the rock in no more than 3 seconds on average and does not take unnecessary risks getting himself injured. Like Aaron Rodgers. Great quarterback, but he goes out and gets himself hurt and he's really useless. And it's just like that every year with that guy. You got to have a smart quarterback, high completion. If the guy self-sacks, he self-sacks, gets back up, and away he goes, You got to be smart, high percentages. I'll take that over the rocket arm. If anybody, what they should do is watch the Brady 6. Only watch it until the point until they start over-glorifying Brady. But watch it from college, from when he's college till where he gets a start. When he was being picked, none of these people worshiping quarterbacks right now that are, chanting for a quarterback want Tom Brady. That's the last quarterback they want. Quarterback with a high completion rate who can get rid of the ball in no more than 3 seconds on average and doesn't take unnecessary risks. Tom Brady was the most noodled arm quarterback in the draft. And, the documentary shows you that. And people will argue that the whole time. It's because in reality, it's like how back in the day, in the 80s and 90s when track stars, everybody wanted a track star receiver. He could run faster than everybody, but he couldn't catch a cold on a cold November rainy day in his underwear, And that's where we are now with quarterbacks. People fall in love with arms. There are plenty of linemen out there who can throw a football through a brick wall, but they're not a quarterback. There's a lot more to being a quarterback. You need a smart guy, high completion rate, and who can get rid of the ball. You need a system that provides that. You need to get rid of the ball soon. Once in a while you can pump it out deep. That's fine, but and you can do all the stats. They're in the short to mid range. That's where your success is. Your meat and potatoes are. And now I move on to the receivers. Receivers who fight for routes and not just simply run routes. There's a difference. Look at Edelman. I mean, he's a great example of that. Edelman reminds me of Ed McCaffrey. Ed McCaffrey was like that. He didn't just run routes. He fought for routes. You need receivers that are, scrappy and, just as scrappy as a DB. But then again, we're back to scouting again. That was number 2 on my list. So you get these kind of players. Believe me, if I could do it, I could put a team together. I would. Anyway. Secondary, now 7. Secondary, which has no communication issues and understands discipline coverage. Okay, now if you have a marquee defensive line, it is a huge, huge benefit. I mean, take a look at the Ravens. I mean, they one complaint they had, I think it was a season ago, is that their DBs weren't all that great. They didn't have to be all that great. They were good enough, really more than good enough, because their defensive line is so good. And that's what happens when you have the marquee lines. And again, how good is your quarterback going to be when you have a marquee offensive line? We've all seen that. Goff looked like shit, but you know what? At the same time, so did his offensive line. They kind of go hand in hand. And here's number 8: a league's best special teams preventing huge returns. Kickers who don't muff punts. If these and this is my conclusion here, if these check boxes are all met, I'll put my team up against anyone, DMac, anyone who believes that simply plugging in a shiny new quarterback will solve their issues. I'll put my model up against your 2018 quarterback class. If the Broncos could meet all 8 of those criteria, I will put them up against all of them. Baker Mayfield, all of them. I'll put them up against Mahomes. I will, if they can follow that criteria. So in 2018, you had Musgrave trying to make Case Keenum, and I don't even know what they were thinking, to make him a pocket quarterback when he's kind of a rollout guy. The game 1, they had him throwing 40 passes, which, again, why were you doing that? When you were supposed to, it was going to be like 25 passes, 25 to 30 passes, and the rest running. You're supposed to run the ball. It was supposed to be complimentary. Whether or not, again, it came up to this. They can stop the run, but they can't do the pass. Well, it was way out of kilter. And they just kind of stuck with that. So, coaching, again, plays a big part. So you draft, so who is it? You got Josh Allen. He had Josh Allen, or you had Rosen. Or Lamar Jackson, if that's where but if they were going to make, it would have been Vance Joseph. This is my whole point. It would have been Vance Joseph picking the quarterback, and if they got lucky and picked, of course, I'm not even sure that Jackson is even all that great of a quarterback, to begin with. Lamar Jackson, I really, think the Ravens may have made the same mistake. I just don't think they thought it through. It's going to take a lot of coaching to make him, in my opinion, a really good quarterback. Then you have Rosen, who's basically a pocket quarterback. So, in my opinion, that's who they would have. If they were going to take a quarterback, it probably would have been him. Allen, would be more of a play action, because they were trying to, create a pocket quarterback. I don't see him pick. I think that's why they didn't pick it. But let's just say they picked. Let's say they picked Allen. Let's just say they went and picked Allen. Somebody who more fits this system that they're getting into now. Okay, first of all, this guy is going to be screwed up from the start because he, just like Rosen is, or Josh Rosen is, that poor guy, and who knows where he's going to end up? I mean, and then he had, what was it, McCoy. as his offensive coordinator, like the worst offensive coordinator. He gets that. So Josh Allen comes in a lot worse offensive line than the Buffalo Bills, I'll tell you that. And he'd be running for his life, probably throwing INTs, and everybody would, what would happen. Everybody would say that he's a bust, that he's no good. So he would, again, there's that doubt creeping in. Now you've got to overcome a bad year on top of, teaching a guy that has had his first year a bad experience and trying to iron that out. Okay, so why don't you take the smart approach, DMac, and why don't you do these points I said? System, they got it. Real scouting, do they really have that? Real scouting in both free agency and the draft, do they have that? That still remains to be seen in my book. Real coaching, that still remains to be seen, okay? Marquee lines, khaki pants, they're the khaki pants, they want offensive, defensive lines. That's the way football is. Have you not seen the Patriots? Have you not looked at that model? Or any successful team, that's consistent. It's consistently you're consistently in the playoffs. You have solid lines on both. Historically, that's what you have. Teams that are dynasties, or what you want to call them, dynasties, or teams that have a track record of getting to the playoff consistently. That's one of the keys. Offensive, defensive lines, always. Then you have reaching those four. You give your quarterback, whoever that quarterback is, the best chance to develop. You want the young. I'm not against a young quarterback, but I'm against throwing a young quarterback in shit. And this is the thing: is the denial that goes on in the Broncos about their team being crap. And until they get that turned around, in my opinion, keep Case Keenum. In my opinion, again, he works like Charlie Johnson. When the Broncos had Charlie Johnson, he is there to help get the rest of this team put together, get the scouting department put together, work on a. You got a veteran who can work on a system. If he can get the system going and get the offense to understand what this new offensive coordinator is doing, you need a veteran to do that. You can't ask a guy from college to come in and do that. It's just illogical. I don't know. We've seen it so many times. These teams go out and they get these quarterbacks and they all go down the toilet because they're really not ready for it. So why don't you do the smart thing and, like I said, system. Get the scouting department. Get a good scouting department that can plug players in. Get good coaching that can coach them up and make them great players. Is that too much to ask from people before you start worrying? And the lines, can we get lines an offensive line that actually can help a quarterback? So a quarterback gets brought into a system. They're brought in a guy to do that. Okay. So I think that at least the Broncos are thinking along the lines that I'm talking about. But again, I got into, is there a quarterback this year? I think this year is a backup. I think, and to get back to idiot DMac, is in this 2018 draft, what good would it do? The team was anything but ready for it was the most unfriendly quarterback team. You took a guy that just took a team to the one game away from the Super Bowl, and you made him a crappy quarterback. You can't put it all on him. He went to a crappy team. That's what sports talk radio can't seem to utter the words. This team needs to get built up. And worry. You got a veteran quarterback. Get the pieces in place. Try to get a year in and get this system ironed out, so that when you bring in a quarterback, you've got some repetition. You got reps under your belt. You can guide them better. You can say, this is what we were doing. This is the looks we're seeing. You've got some kind of compass. Like I said, I look at Case Keenum like Charlie Johnson. And for those Bronco fans that don't know Charlie Johnson, he was a good quarterback. But he wasn't marquee. He wasn't elite, but he was a good quarterback that got the Broncos ready for the next level. And I just think it's a good rule of thumb.